Good morning, Midland, Texas. I got a little story here that I think you might find interesting, and it's just based off a Facebook post this morning, and I'll jump right in. I'm going to keep it short here for you. I titled it Murder by Nicotine, okay? And this is a short read, and so I'm just going to go read that real quick. The ex-wife told me in 2011 that a hidden trapdoor was here in my house somewhere, and obviously one of them was under the cabinet in my utility room where I was shot. Okay, and so based on the police report from the night of the murder attempt, which I just got this year, it looks like MPD Officers Davis, Dickie, Chatwell, Angell, and Hale used this trapdoor to come into my home on that night because they wasn't seen on the outside security cameras. It is based on the timestamps. That's how come. I believed it was filled up with dirt, the entrance, and then concrete was poured in the first 3 days after I was shot between the two times that the police were seen in my home. Now remember, I was in the hospital for 10 days. It looks like the police never planned on anybody knowing they were here on the first night, and that was a part of the reason the police report was illegally withheld for 7 years. The log files show they tried to disable the camera that caught them, and I post that sometimes. If you're installing a hidden trapdoor in a home which has a concrete slab floor, then you need to cut the concrete. And interestingly, Will Pruitt, the late husband of my realtor, Jeaneen Pruitt, owned Diamond Tech Concrete Cutting. Will died in July 2013 at only 47 years old, and his obituary said that he passed away while quietly smoking a cigar on his patio. This reminded me of when Marcus Dobner asked me if I was a smoker, and I told him that I used to be, but I quit smoking and drinking several years ago. He then tells me about a new way to murder people without getting caught. They're using liquid nicotine, which is cheap and readily available due to the vapes, and it gives a person a heart attack. If a person is a smoker, then people just think he smoked himself to death. I'm not saying that Will Pruitt was killed because he had been cutting trapdoors in the concrete floors of home, to support stealing from and killing homeowners and crime and racketeering, because I don't have any evidence of that. I'm just saying that legit law enforcement might want to check with the contractors in town that do cut holes in concrete to see how many homes have been rigged with hidden underground access, and that people need to be aware of this new way to murder people. What will the crime ring think of next? And keep in mind, I've well documented homeowners all over Midland, Odessa, Texas, and across the nation reporting people in the attic. Here at my home, multiple people are documented tunnels, underground facilities here. That's how they're getting in the house. They're rigging a home. They're coming under the house. They have a wall modified where they can, in a trap door. Okay. And so I found this. This is James William Pruitt. Rest in peace. He died here, age 47 years old, quietly enjoying a cigar on his patio. And I noticed that somebody made a point of putting that in the obituary. And he owned Diamond Tech Concrete Cutting. Okay, and then of course his wife was Jeaneen Pruitt, and she's who found me this special home here that has been the nightmare that won't end. Okay. And so here's the screenshot from Marcus Dobner, and I think he used to be a police officer, nice guy. He says, "Buddy, do you smoke?" And I said, "Well, I quit smoking and drinking a couple of years ago, and God has been my strength." He says, "Interesting. Make sure that is something you write down somewhere, that you don't smoke anything. There's a new drug out there. It's not really new. It's like James Bond kind of stuff, and it's called liquid nicotine. It's concentrated, and they put that in your system, and all of a sudden you get a heart attack or heart rest." And the lab might say they found nicotine in your system, and people are like, well, he smoked himself to death, so be careful. And there are other drugs I know of, whatever. And so I went and Googled, liquid nicotine. It was readily available, 100 milligrams for $8. And the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, says it only takes 50 to 60 milligrams of nicotine for a deadly dose. And like I said, if you're already a smoker, then you already have a certain amount of nicotine in your system. And so the public needs to be aware of that. That's what the press is, you've never seen a news story on that. And like I said, I believe that Marcus used to be a police officer. That's what I was thinking. Then my second comment here was my realtor that found me this special home, which was rigged for crime and racketeering, was Jeaneen Pruitt. She was also the realtor that I used when I listed my home for sale a couple of months after the murder attempt. And that is when this video was made. I have no evidence suggesting that she knew this home or the many other homes in Midland, Odessa have been rigged with hidden underground access. Okay. And so this is right off my YouTube, and basically the reason I listed my home for sale a couple of months before I shot was because of the extortion threat I got. If I didn't pay, you know, for apartment for the ex-wife, it's going to cost $1,200 to $1,800 a month. She said, you know, she told me she's going to tell everybody she's crazy, that I was crazy about the crimes going on here. And you know, I didn't take that as a big threat. I didn't know her childhood friend was Detective Rosa Rodriguez either. And you know, and then that lie was going to be used to cover up the murder of my life and all that. And so, but this video here was made at that time. I listed my home, and what I've told people before, that, you know, now I bet I've had 100 people ask, suggest, or order me to sell my home after I crawled out and survived a premeditated murder attempt. And you know, and I'm going, my home was for sale just a couple months before I shot, and I had no bidders, you know. And then that told me that they didn't want to, you know, they didn't want to, you know, they didn't want to buy my home. They had a plan to get my home. I believe that they had a plan to get my home another way, and that was by killing me and getting it for free, or at least that's what I thought. So anyway, this was the sales video that Jeaneen made, and y'all can go watch that on my YouTube channel if you want to see it. But this is back in 2011. It come down off the, it was off the market about 2 months before I shot. No bidders, listed at market value. And so, especially for all the people, I've got a video called "Decided to Sell My Home," and even if you remember recently, I provided the Homeland Security, evidence I believe could solve multiple murders, stop this human trafficking ring, and the Homeland Security agent Paul asked me, I don't know why you don't sell your home since you're living under the threat of death. And here I'm providing him all this evidence. And, it was another person that's sitting here, asking about selling my home, and so I finally said, okay, I'll sell it. The price is $1 billion. If you can't afford it, give it to secret police, sneak into another home, shoot another homeowner, and so now it's all about the price, and so that's a joke there. But anyway, moving on. The first time I heard a police scanner call of a homeowner reporting something in the attic was in June 2013, and that was at the home of the late Harold Klotz, who lived at 4619 Story. Now, I've recorded a lot of police scanner calls, but this one I didn't record it. This was the first one I heard. And I later went over there and met Mr. Klotz, who was a retired veteran, and I was sure that home was rigged like mine was. The Midland Appraisal District showed that Mr. Klotz sold that home to David Pine, who owns Pine and Beckett Realty, and interestingly, that is who my realtor works for now, Jeaneen Pruitt. And I'm not saying that David Pine knows that was one of the many homes that's been rigged with hidden access, because I have no proof of that. But anyway, it's just, it's a small world, just interesting. This is right from the Midland County Appraisal District, and you go look up deed history any home. You just go to midcad.org and look the deed history up, and you can see it. There's Harold Klotz, and you can see on July 2014 he sold it to James David Pine, and then Pine sold it to this guy right here. And I hadn't even looked at it recently. Maybe it's sold again. But what I was doing back then was sending myself email, and that's where I can have a timestamp document. And so on June 27, 2013, I said at 5 p.m. yesterday, I heard a call on the police scanner dispatching officers to this home, and I had the address there. And I spoke to Mr. Klotz last night, and so Here, I'm documenting it, that I suspected. Interestingly, Mr. Klotz, he told me that a doctor lived next door, and that doctor had all this traffic coming 24/7 to his house, and I'm thinking, I bet there was a tunnel put in from that house over to his house. And he said what happened is he moved out for about 4 or 5 years and let some of his family members stay in his house there at 4619 Story, and when he got back is when he would hear people in the attic. And so I once again, I believe that it was used for human trafficking, sex trafficking, and so it was rigged, and he'd called the police multiple times. I'm sure if somebody, does the investigation legitimately, then we'll find that record too, where Mr. Klotz called. So anyways, I thought y'all found that interesting. By the way, Midland, Texas, there are many more homes out here. You can see that on my Facebook channel. Many homeowners, and I bet there's more we don't even know about.